Batıda Macaristan ve Sırbistan, Kuzeydoğu'da Ukrayna ve Moldova, güneyde ise Bulgaristan'la komşu olan Romanya, sosyalist rejimin dönemin devlet başkanı Çavuşescu'nun eşiyle beraber kurşuna dizilmeleriyle son bulduğu 1989 yılından itibaren Batı dünyasına dahil olmuştur. 2004 yılında NATO'ya, 2007 yılında ise Avrupa Birliği'ne katılmıştır. AB'ye katılımı oldukça tartışma yaratmış Romanya, kalabalık nüfusuyla AB ülkeleri sıralamasında 7. sırada yer almaktadır. Liderler ve Kararlar programının bu haftaki konuğu Romanya'nın Avrupa Birliği işlerinden sorumlu Devlet Bakanı Bogdan Aurescu'dur. Hukuk fakültesi mezunu olan Aurescu, 1996 yılından itibaren bakanlıkta çalışmaktadır. 2009 yılında Dışişleri Bakanlığı'nda stratejik ilişkilerden sorumlu Devlet Bakanlığı'na atanmış, 2010 yılının Ağustos ayından itibaren ise aynı bakanlığa bağlı olarak Avrupa işlerinden sorumlu Devlet Bakanı sıfatıyla görev yapmaktadır.
Liderler ve Kararlar programında bu hafta Romanya'dayız. Bükreş'te Romanya'nın devlet bakanı olan AB'den sorumlu olan Bogdan Aurescu ile görüşeceğiz. Kendisine aslında dünya şu anda Mısır üzerinden Orta Doğu'da bir yeni domino etkisi gerçekleşecek mi diye sorarken biz de 1989 yılında bu ülkenin yaşadığı değişiklikler üzerinden görüşlerini alacağız. Evet. Well. Mr. Aurescu, thank you very much for granting me this interview. I was just mentioning in my introduction in Turkish, which obviously you didn't understand, but a lot of people are now likening what's happening in the Middle East to potentially what we don't know, of course, what's going to be eventually happening in the Middle East, but the uprising in Egypt and what happened earlier, that it might have a domino effect in the rest of the region. The type of effect that happened, the type of thing that happened, not necessarily the same, but in this part of the world in 1989. So I would actually first like to ask you what you think, is there any correlation between what's happening in the Middle East between what happened here before?
Well, first of all, it is a pleasure to be present in your program, and it is a pleasure that we are meeting again after less than 2 weeks. I was in Istanbul on the 20th of January to present before the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization member states the priorities of the Romanian chairmanship in office in this first semester of 2011. Second, to answer your question, of course, it is difficult to make parallels between the situation in Romania more than 20 years ago and what happens now in the Middle East. What is important right now is that the international community has a direct focus on what happens there. We in the European Union we are watching very carefully the evolution of events, and we Romanians especially take into account this historic let's say expertise, if I may say so.
Exactly.
But of course, situations are different from country to country, from region to region. We Romanians were more than half a century under an authoritarian regime, and 1989 was in fact the moment where we were reconnected to the community of European values that we were belonging to. Now, after more than 20 years after the 1989 revolution, I would say that Romania is now an EU and a NATO member, and we are trying to do our best in order to cope with the challenges of this capacity, both as far as the deepening of the integration process. The reform continues inside Romania, and as a NATO ally, and as you know, we have, together with Turkey, our great partner, we are taking part in a lot of NATO activities.
And if you allow me, I'll ask about that later because it's very important. Of course. Okay. What I was actually getting at is when you said what happened here in Romania in 1989, more than 20 years ago, it actually all started with something else. There was something that happened in another country, and then as a result of that, it did have a domino effect in all of the countries that had authoritarian regimes in this part of the world. So now that one of the regimes in the Middle East has fallen, does it is it potentially going to be the end of some of the other authoritarian regimes in the Middle East? We'll all wait and see, of course. But we're all obviously curiously watching what's happening. What I would like to talk about today mostly is of what you've just mentioned, the Black Sea region, because the Black Sea region as a region is very important, and it's been called as a complex emerging security region. And which a lot of people think that, you know, if there is any problems in the Black Sea, if there are any security issues in the Black Sea region, it's then going to actually result potentially in problems in the greater European parts of the world, or even the Euro-Atlantic region at large. What do you think about this terminology that's used for the Black Sea as complex emerging security region?
Well, Romania has advocated for a long time in the past years, and for many times in the past years, both at the level of EU and at the level of NATO, about the importance of the Black Sea in terms of security for the not only for the region, but also for the Europe as a whole. And it is important to note that the Black Sea region is at the crossroad of three main areas, not only Europe, but also Central Asia and the Middle East. There are also countries in the region sharing the same geography, but with various aspirations in terms of European and Euro-Atlantic integration. The region is also extremely important because not only of the security problems, because there are a lot of bilateral or regional issues that are still not solved, and I would highlight here the issue of the so-called protracted or frozen conflicts, but also in terms of the challenges that the region poses to the international community, and I would refer here especially to the energy security issues. And of course, there is an important link between the security of the region as a whole and the energy issues. There is an interconnection and possible influence between the two. Political instability may lead to a blockage in the flow of the necessary resources from the Caspian region, from Central Asia towards Europe, and well, sometimes political decisions might also influence the energy flow if these decisions are taken not based on economic reasons but on political ones. Also, one should not neglect the possibility of terrorist activities in the region, taking into account the fact that, well, it has this geographic and geopolitical position at the crossroad of the three areas that I have mentioned. That is why we have advocated a lot about increasing the profile of the Black Sea on the agenda of the European and Euro-Atlantic partners. And it is not just a coincidence, the fact that, for instance, NATO is paying more and more attention to the region. For instance, I will give you the example of the provision included by the allies in the communique of the Lisbon summit of last November, when it was agreed upon and well included in the text of this important document of the summit, that the wider Black Sea region is important from the security point of view for NATO as a whole. Also, in terms of interest for energy security issues, one should notice that this issue has grown in importance within NATO. One of the taskings of the Lisbon summit is about thinking at the level of the alliance how to grow the profile of the alliance as far as energy security issues. And this is not only about protecting the so-called critical infrastructure, as it is used in the terminology that is used in the NATO documents, but also in terms of securing the sources of energy. Here I will also mention the importance that NATO is paying after the adoption of the new strategic concept to the issue of modernizing the partnership tool, the partnership between the alliance and states in the region, between the alliance and other international organizations. So here is, in a nutshell, a picture of the importance and interconnections between and among all these factors.
You've actually just now left me at the point of my next question, so thank you very much. You've raised a lot of the important issues that are related to the Black Sea region. And I actually had the pleasure of listening to you last 2 weeks ago, as you mentioned, in Istanbul at an event that was celebrating Romania's chairmanship of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation from January until June this year. And there you stated that it is only through the participation of all actors involved that challenges can be turned into opportunities, which was, it sounds wonderful, you know, the cooperation of all actors. When we're talking about cooperation of all actors in the Black Sea region, as you rightly mentioned again, is that we have the NATO allies and the non-NATO members, and there have been historical disputes between some of these countries. And when you look in history, actually, seas are normally unifiers. They're not dividers. And somehow Black Sea, throughout some of the sad past, let's say, has been a divider, and now we need to revive this idea of a sea being a unifier of people who have a common future together, because anything that happens, be it environmental, be it energy related, security related, energy is also a security issue as well, but all of these things do affect everybody that live around the sea. So this wonderful statement that you made, this great hope that Romania holds for BSEC chairmanship, do you think it is possible that all different partners will be actually sitting together at a table and trying to work towards a common future, although there are obvious differences?
Well, I think it is important for all partners and those states in the region to sit together and discuss openly all matters of interest, even if there are divergent views on certain matters. We think that dialogue should come first, and then, of course, throughout this dialogue and because of this dialogue, solutions might appear. And this is what we are trying to do, for instance, during this short but dense mandate as chairmanship in office of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization. It is a very interesting example of a forum, first in 1992 created as a political process, then in 1998 as an organization with legal personality, comprising all states in the region, and also including as observers many other interested states and international organizations. And we know very well that countries in the region have a lot of bilateral or regional issues. Some of them are unsolved for years. But first and foremost, it is important to use this forum as a platform for dialogue. And that is why, besides the objective of restoring the economic dimension of the organization, and of course this was the region for what it was created, we would like also to promote more the idea of the culture of dialogue within the organization and among the members of the organization. And it is not only BSEC which may be used. There are also other formats of regional cooperation. The International Commission for the Protection of the Environment in the Black Sea. As a matter of fact, Romania is exercising this year also the chairmanship of this organization. Is also important because including environment in the issues related to security also makes sense, as you mentioned. There are also other formats that may be used and are used, and I would mention here the Black Sea Forum as an organization involving the riparian states, an on-call force that may be used if necessary. And recently Romania has joined the Turkish initiative called Black Sea Harmony, and the Memorandum of Understanding between Romania and Turkey has entered into force already on the 6th of December, and starting with this year we will start working together within this organization. As far as the European Union is concerned, there is also a growing interest about the Black Sea area, and we have worked a lot on promoting this on the agenda in Brussels. I have not only stated the nice sentence that you have mentioned, but I have also mentioned the fact that we need to bring more Europe on the Black Sea agenda.
Which was challenged by somebody actually at that event.
More Black Sea on the European agenda. And I think a good example in that respect is the Black Sea Synergy initiative with two platforms, two partnerships that were already created at the initiative of Romania. I would mention the Partnership for Environment launched last year in spring. But also the NGO Forum of the Black Sea, which already had last year in autumn the third meeting in Bucharest. But the European Parliament is also interested in the Black Sea region. Exactly on the 20th of January, when I was presenting the priorities of the Romanian chairmanship in office of the Black Sea Economic Cooperation Organization in this semester in Istanbul, in Brussels, the European Parliament adopted a resolution which was promoted, and I think this is not coincidental, this is not a coincidence, by a Romanian member of the European Parliament regarding the future creation of an EU Black Sea strategy. Well, I think all these interests and activities concur in the same direction. This semester, during the EU presidency exercised by Hungary, we plan adopting in June at the European Council the EU strategy for the Danube. The EU strategy for the Danube is a macro-regional initiative meant to meaning to promote the regional development in the European basin. And of course, this EU strategy for the Danube region will have an impact upon the Black Sea region as well. That is why on the agenda of the Romanian chairmanship in office, we also have planned the organization of a conference on the impact of the EU strategy for the Danube upon the wider Black Sea region. So these are only some of the ideas that we have here in Bucharest, and many of these ideas are shared by our European partners. And we welcome the participation of the regional actors like Turkey, which is unequivocally a key actor in the region. During my presentation in Istanbul at the Kadir Has University, I have highlighted the potential of cooperation between Romania and Turkey. I think our bilateral relations are of strategic character, and I think we have to work a little bit more, including this year, in order to put value on this potential.
Actually, Turkey also places almost probably, you cannot say which country places more emphasis, but Turkey places a lot of importance on Black Sea and Black Sea harmony and cooperation. And for our viewers, because most probably they don't even know, but the Black Sea Economic Cooperation is actually hosted in Istanbul in a wonderful, wonderful building. But hopefully Turkey and Romania, during your chairmanship, during Romania's chairmanship this semester, will be able to do a lot together, and hopefully we'll be able to create momentum, which is much needed. But when you were saying that, you know, the Black Sea region and the European Union needs to cooperate better together, of course, as you remember, during the roundtable discussion, there was a gentleman who actually said, why should the European Union be involved in the Black Sea region? These are the types of criticisms that one gets. It's also the same thing as, for example, NATO members, non-NATO members, EU members, non-EU members. A lot of the countries sometimes feel like they're left out, and if they belong to a region, then they should be just working with that region. But all countries in regions have different affiliations, which is sometimes quite difficult, because you have all these different institutions, and how to coordinate them better, how to make sure that you get the best potential out of it, the best result for everybody in the end, is the tricky thing. And Romania, hopefully, with this term, will be able to do that.
Well, we will try to do our best. Of course, we need the cooperation of all partners, and we trust Turkey as a sincere and honest partner, willing to promote cooperation in the area. And this is obvious, even if taking into account the current doctrine of foreign policy of Turkey of zero problems with the neighbors. I think the idea of enhanced cooperation in the Black Sea area, including all member states, all stakeholders, irrespective of their status or affiliations or, let's say, orientation about European or Euro-Atlantic integration of their respective country, I think that they would be interested, and they will be interested, in taking part in an enhanced regional cooperation. As a matter of fact, well, this question about more EU in the Black Sea, more NATO in the Black Sea, I think it is already overpassed by the reality of facts. And the fact is that starting with the 1st of January 2007, after Romania and Bulgaria became members of the EU, well, at least in part, for the time being, Black Sea became an European sea. And since the accession in 2004 of Romania, Bulgaria joining thus Turkey within NATO, it is clear that we can't simply ignore the realities of this membership and of the effects of this membership upon the region. At the same time, as already mentioned, Black Sea is on the agenda of NATO. So instead of putting these questions, perhaps we could focus on how to better use these opportunities and to coordinate better all these initiatives. I don't think it's a bad thing to have so many initiatives about the Black Sea. I think that they show the fact that Black Sea is important. It has a strategic meaning in terms of not only regional but also continental and perhaps even more ambit. So what we have to do is to focus on concrete projects and how to make best use of this reality.
Liderler ve Kararlar programına kısa bir ara veriyoruz. Biraz sonra sizlerleyiz. Liderler ve Kararlar programına verdiğimiz kısa aradan sonra devam ediyoruz. Romanya'da Devlet Bakanlığı'na yaptığımız röportajımızda şimdi NATO ve Avrupa Birliği işbirliği konusunu konuşacağız. About the concrete project, what about the Nabucco project in terms of energy? Because it's one of the projects that, of course, Turkey has been pushing for a long time. Do you think that the Nabucco project will take place? Will it ever work out? Because when we look at the Black Sea, as you were mentioning, there are frozen conflicts in the region. Some that Romania has with its neighbors, some that Turkey has with its neighbors. To name a few, the Nagorno-Karabakh issue, Abkhazia, you know, all of these actually do stand in the way of creating better energy security and security at large for everybody. With all this in mind, do you think that the Nabucco project is going to be realized in the near future?
Well, I think it's a very important project, and it is a priority project for EU. Within the so-called southern corridor of energy flow towards Europe, and I'm glad that both Romania and Turkey fully support politically the Nabucco project. And we in Romania, we think that it has a very good chance to become reality in due time. And I think it is more advanced than other projects of the same character in the region. What is important in terms of energy security in the region, and I think both the efforts of Romania and Turkey as transit countries for the Nabucco pipeline, I think it is extremely important to ensure the diversification of routes and of sources of supply of energy for Europe. And I think it's a good thing that there is progress as far as Nabucco is concerned. Last year in August, the interstate agreement was adopted. There are also evolutions in terms of commitment of the international financial institutions towards financing the Nabucco projects. There are good evolutions in each and every country involved in the project. So I think this is one more project where both Romania and Turkey could contribute.
Okay. And you talked quite a lot about NATO and Romania's membership in NATO, and of course the Lisbon summit that took place very recently, which produced a new strategic document for NATO. Everybody watched it very closely, and it's of course very important for every member state and non-member states. And Turkey and Romania at the same time were in the spotlight about potentially hosting the missile defense systems. And there is still not a lot of detail available actually about the status of this, but could you provide our viewers some more information as to whether or not Romania will be hosting them?
Well, the decision to host part of the system, was already taken in Romania. So this is, I would say, a matter of political decision already taken.
Yes, but the details about it.
We are now in the process of bilateral negotiations with the United States on establishing the legal framework for hosting the U.S. interceptors on the Romanian soil. I would say that the negotiations are progressing very well. We have already had 4 rounds of negotiations. We have started in June. The 4th one was on the 14th of December. So I think that we are progressing very well, not only as far as the legal framework, but also with regard to the identification of the location of the site on the territory of Romania. Romania will be involved in the second phase of this phased adaptive approach. This second phase is meant to be implemented in 2015. And it will be followed by a third phase implemented in Poland. There is already an agreement concluded between the United States and Poland in that respect. And then the 4th phase in 2020. As far as Romania's participation, well, this is a decided matter, and we are in a very good level of preparedness for that, and we will try to finalize all this exercise during 2011.
One of the other things is that first of all, Romania has been a strong supporter for Turkey's EU accession, which we greatly appreciate. And when you were mentioning that with Romania's accession and Bulgaria's accession into the European Union, the Black Sea becoming a European sea in a way, hopefully Turkey's accession will not come that far, so that we'll have more coverage of the Black Sea shore. But with the cooperation between European Union and NATO, in terms of, and obviously the important issue for you in your position as State Secretary for European Affairs, there's a lot of skepticism regarding any progress made in terms of the cooperation in defense of the two institutions. And according to the observers at this past summit, Turkey was the biggest stumbling block for an agreement on the final language of a new strategic concept for the military alliance. And this NATO-EU stalemate rests on the issue, according to some of the observers, that on the issue of Cyprus. How was this agreement overcome at the Lisbon summit?
Well, Romania is first of all a firm supporter of Turkey's accession to the European Union, and we have supported Turkey in the process, and we will continue to support Turkey in the process, and we hope that also during this semester of 2011 at least one chapter be open for negotiations, and we will try to help within the process of decision making in Brussels in order for a positive decision to be taken in this respect. Second, Romania was before, but also continues to be a big supporter of an enhanced partnership between NATO and the European Union. And I think that the language that was agreed, it was of course a compromise language between and among the allies in Lisbon, I think that language opens the door for more links and cooperation, leading to a true partnership between the two organizations. And it is important to note the fact that basically, for the time being, there are 21 members of EU that are also members to NATO, and we hope that in the future, not in a very long time, Turkey will also become one of those common members of the two organizations. In the meantime, it is important for both organizations to cooperate and to enhance their cooperation. And there are several arguments in that respect, practical arguments. First of all, both organizations are involved in certain theaters of operations in the world. Let's take, for instance, Kosovo. Let's take the example of Afghanistan. And the two organizations share the same goal as far as the ensuring stability and security of those regions. That is why it is important in practical terms for the two organizations and their missions in the field to have not only physical contact, but also enhanced cooperation based on legal and administrative arrangements. Second, the two organizations share important goals together in terms of, for instance, energy security, if we have discussed about that. Both NATO and EU have on their agenda the energy security issue, of course, from various angles. As I mentioned to you, the NATO strategic concept adopted in Lisbon and the other documents of the summit mentioned the necessity for an increased profile of NATO as far as energy security is concerned. At the same time, EU is concerned about energy aspects, and very soon, during this semester too, a energy security strategy will be adopted within the EU. So this is perhaps one more example of the need for enhanced cooperation. So that is why I think it is important to see the broad picture of the necessity of having this enhanced cooperation and try to solve the problems that are staying in the way of this development. And we hope that this will be done, because this will be in the profit of the region.
When you were mentioning the reasons behind NATO and European Union EU cooperation, the reasons that you stated are, of course, very important. One of the other things is, I guess, following the economic crisis, both institutions are trying to create leaner and more efficient structures. So cooperation between these two structures will mean that there will be less need for expenses. There will be a cost-cutting side to it as well. But what Turkey is, of course, vehemently opposing in this is that Turkey is blocked from the membership of EU's defense agency, which is very important in terms of cooperation in the European Union. What can be done about that? Because there was a compromise on the document that was signed, but maybe there could be a compromise on this as well.
Well, I'm sure that we can work together to solve this issue too. I could only remember to the public that recently the Secretary General of NATO has mentioned the necessity for solving this issue and the fact that it is important for Turkey to become a member of the European Defence Agency, as it was a member to the previous organization, the Western European Group on Armaments. So I think that all this is work in progress, and I think we have to make all of us efforts to compromise in order to reach a solution.
What do you think, because since this program is going to be aired in Turkey and a lot of the Turks are really interested in hearing about what other European Union member countries are thinking about Turkey's membership into the European Union, what could be the benefits of Turkey's membership to the European Union?
Well, I could refer to the benefits of Turkey's accession in terms of the interests of Romania. Well, first of all, we think that Turkey belongs naturally to the European community of values, and I think Turkey has brought an important contribution to the European history. So, as our Minister of Foreign Affairs recently mentioned in an interview for a Turkish newspaper, the history of Turkey is part of the history of Europe. Second, beyond this, well, let's say cultural compatibility, I would say that the accession of Turkey would further increase the security of the European Union, complementing happily with the capacity of NATO member. In terms of energy security, we have discussed about that. This is only one obvious example in that respect. Second, it would further enhance the economic benefits for the EU members, including for Romania. Third, it would bring more EU to the Black Sea. That we have already mentioned that. So I would say that for Romania, Turkey is a natural partner, not only in the region, but also a natural future partner within the EU.
Actually, one thing that came to my mind is the European Union philosophy of unity within diversity. So I guess one of the other benefits of including Turkey in the European Union would be to potentially stop the criticism that the European Union has become a Christian-only club. Because Turkey is a Muslim-majority country, Turkey would add to the diversity of the European Union in many different respects. But we greatly appreciate Romania's help and
I would add here the fact that from the Romanian point of view, the fact that we have a Turkish minority in Romania, this is also an important bilateral bridge between the two countries. And this minority has its rights protected according to the highest European standards in that respect. And there is even a Turkish deputy in the Romanian parliament, and we have in our constitution this automatic representation of minorities in the parliament. I think that all these are arguments for a positive answer to the question that you have asked.
And actually, when you talk about the Turkish minorities in Romania, there have been a lot of issues, not some positive, some negative, in terms of the Turkish minorities living in other European Union member countries. But there have been issues with some Romanian citizens, especially to name the last one, the issue of the deportation of the Roma people from France. I would like to get your view on this. What was the official view of the Romanian government on that?
Well, the official view of the Romanian government was already expressed. I will not reiterate that
just
that issue.
To briefly explain.
What is important, and this is the debate that is taking place right now at the level of the European Union, is how to better promote, as a matter of EU general policy, the social inclusion of the Roma people in all countries of the European Union. And that is why the Hungarian presidency of the EU again has an important issue on its agenda for this semester, namely the adoption of an EU strategy for the Roma, covering the whole problem at EU level. And we are ready to get involved very actively in this debate and to fit it with our thoughts and our input. And we think that it is important to be innovative in imagining ways and means to integrate socially this defavorized population. And at the same time, making projects for social inclusion, using better the EU funds in that respect, but also respecting the fundamental rights and freedoms of this minority, a minority that has no kin state like other minorities in Europe, and of course of special importance among those rights is the freedom of movement.
There have been criticisms within the European Union about the tackling of corruption in countries like Romania and Bulgaria. And actually in the last year, there was in the EU report, actually the EU report praised Bulgaria for its progress on this issue, but scolded Romania somewhat on lack of progress on toppling with fighting corruption. Since this really falls into your jurisdiction, what kind of concrete steps are you taking in Romania in order to fight against corruption, because it's an issue that is also very related to Turkey.
What I can tell you is that since the July report of the Commission of last year and now, there was a huge effort by the Romanian government and Romanian institutions in general to remedy some of the observations or recommendations that were put forward by the Commission in that report. And there is already a lot of progress, and this was acknowledged as such by the Commission during an interim evaluation mission that was taking place in November. The report of the Commission will be issued in February, and we are confident that in this report what we have done in the meantime will be acknowledged. And I will give you some of the some examples of how we have dealt with some recommendations in that report. First of all, the report in July recommended that the law on the so-called National Integrity Agency be made more efficient in terms of functionality of this body. This is a body that is dealing with cases of conflict of interests between the position of a certain official and certain activities that official might undertake, and also is checking the declarations that each official has to make from time to time according to the law about his fortune, about the gifts received during the previous year, and so on. The law on the National Integrity Agency was modified and adopted by the Parliament, and this was acknowledged as a positive step according to the recommendations of the Commission. Another issue was the adoption of new civil, criminal, and criminal procedural codes. The 4 codes were already adopted, and they will enter into force at the end of this year. And now we are working on the drafting and adoption of the implementation laws of these 4 codes. Another issue was the recommendation to remedy the fact that, according to the previous legislation in force in Romania, if an exception of constitutionality of a certain provision of a certain law was brought before the Constitutional Court, the trial was suspended. So, we have remedied that provision in the respective legislation. So now, when an exception of constitutionality is brought before the Constitutional Court, the trial is not suspended anymore. So the procedure may take place in a more speedy manner. Another issue that was recommended by the report was to take measures in order to deal with the excessive length of judicial proceedings. And this is an issue which is faced by many European states, and not only by Romania, but of course we also face this issue of lengthy proceedings before courts. So a law on the so-called small reform of justice was adopted and entered into force in November, and this was also acknowledged as a positive step by the European Commission. In the meantime, efforts to combat corruption were undertaken, and there are a lot of cases of situations of corruption that were under the investigation of the prosecutors, police officials, and other law enforcement agencies in Romania. Also decisions taken by courts and so on. So I would say that there is already a good track record as far as combating corruption is concerned. Of course, efforts are to be continued. This is, I would say in a nutshell, some of the efforts that we are doing in order to remedy all those observations and recommendations that were put forward by the European Commission within the framework of this cooperation and verification mechanism that was created in order to help the justice reform and the combat against corruption in Romania.
Well, actually, this report is going to be announced It's going to be February tomorrow. It's going to be announced next month. Hopefully, all of these steps taken are going to produce great results. Actually, Turkey has been going through a very similar process, and I'm sure you've been following that. And
that's why we are ready to share our experience with the Turkish agencies about the accession process. It is a very difficult process. It takes a lot of reforms. Sometimes these reforms are painful for the public, for the public system, for the public officials, but they are necessary in order to cope with and to adapt the country to the requirements of the European Union. And this is the process that we have already been through, and well, as far as the justice system, we are still working on that.
Mr. Aurescu, thank you very much for granting me this interview. It's been very enlightening indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. With great pleasure.
Thank you. Liderler ve Kararlar programında bu hafta Romanya'da Bükreş'teydik. Devlet Bakanı Bay Aurescu ile görüştük. Kendisiyle Karadeniz bölgesinin önemini, özellikle de Romanya, çünkü bu 6 aylık dönemde Karadeniz Ekonomik Konseyi'nin başkanlığını yürütüyor. Onun etrafındaki enerji konularını, güvenlik konularını konuştuk. Ve tabii ki gene konu döndü dolaştı Avrupa Birliği'ne ve Türkiye'nin bir türlü ne yazık ki sonuçlanamayan Avrupa Birliği üyeliğine geldi. Önümüzdeki hafta Liderler ve Kararlar programında yeniden görüşene kadar hoşça kalın.